Welcome to this explainer. If you're joining us today, chances are that you, or maybe someone you care deeply about, are just stepping into the world of fertility care. And let's just acknowledge this right out of the gate. Taking this very first step can feel incredibly overwhelming. There's this whole new medical vocabulary to learn, a million appointments to juggle, and of course, a lot of very real emotions. But I want you to just take a deep breath right now because you're absolutely not alone in this. We are going to walk through this entire process step by step together. We'll be looking at the specific diagnostic tests used to assess female fertility, relying on clinical insights to really demystify the whole shebang. Our ultimate goal today? To replace that heavy feeling of overwhelm with a real sense of empowerment.
So let's dive right in. And I want to start with something that should honestly bring you a huge wave of optimism. Our clinical sources state, and I quote, "Once the exact cause of infertility in a female is diagnosed, the chances of a successful pregnancy increases dramatically." I really want you to hold on to that word right there, dramatically. It's so easy to look at medical testing with anxiety, right? Constantly worrying about what the doctors might find. But this diagnostic phase isn't about bracing for bad news at all. It's really just about gathering puzzle pieces. Every single test is just a tool to uncover that exact cause. And once your care team has those pieces, they can build a roadmap personalized exactly for you. This testing phase, it's literally the bridge to a dramatically higher chance of success.
To get those answers, clinics follow a pretty structured approach. The journey generally falls into three main phases. First step, assessing your ovarian reserve and hormones. Second, evaluating uterine health. And third, checking the fallopian tubes.
So where do we actually begin this journey? Well, it all starts with the foundation, understanding your eggs and the hormones that regulate your cycle.
The very first term you're likely going to hear thrown around is ovarian reserve. Our clinical sources define this as the fertility potential of a woman in the absence of any problems in the reproductive tract. Okay, but in plain English, this just means your doctors are checking to see roughly how many eggs you have available right now. It's simply a baseline measurement. These tests are incredibly common, and they just provide a solid starting point. They're there to reassure you and your doctor about your underlying fertility potential, entirely separate from the physical health of your uterus or your fallopian tubes.
Now, alongside checking that reserve, your care team will also run what's called an endocrinology test. An endocrinology is just the fancy medical term for the study of hormones. Honestly, think of your hormones as the master conductors of a grand orchestra. They're sending out these precise chemical signals that tell your body exactly when to grow an egg, when to release it, and how to prep for a pregnancy. A hormonal assessment basically lets your doctors carefully listen in on that orchestra. By checking these levels, they can see if the signals are firing correctly, or, if things just need a little bit of tuning to perfectly optimize your cycle.
All right, once we have a clear picture of that foundation, the natural next question is, how do we check the environment? And by environment, we mean evaluating the physical health of the uterus itself.
This brings us to a test called an SHG, or sonohystogram. Look, I know these medical acronyms can sound super intimidating, but let's demystify this one right now. An SHG is really just a special type of ultrasound. Our source material makes a point to emphasize that this is a totally non-invasive test, meaning absolutely no incisions are made. It's a very gentle procedure that gives your doctors a highly detailed look inside the uterine cavity. They're just using this specialized ultrasound to make sure the shape of the uterus is completely normal and that there isn't anything inside the cavity that shouldn't be there. It's all about ensuring the absolute best, most welcoming environment for our pregnancy.
Now, another tool your doctors might use to check out that environment is a hysteroscopy. And what's actually kind of cool here is how simple the technology is. A hysteroscopy is a procedure used to examine the cervix and the uterus directly. It uses a hysteroscope, which is, get this, just a very thin, lighted, flexible tube. Basically, imagine a tiny, flexible camera that lets your doctor look right at the uterine walls in real time, rather than just looking at an ultrasound shadow. It's a wonderfully precise and supportive way to make absolutely sure your internal environment is healthy and ready to go.
Okay, so we've got the building blocks, and we've checked the environment. Now we arrive at the final physical piece of our puzzle. How do we make sure the pathway is clear? For this, we need to look at the fallopian tubes.
To check those pathways, your clinic might recommend something called a HICOSI test. You can think of this as a specialized tracking tool dedicated specifically to assessing the fallopian tubes. It's designed to gently track the flow of fluid through the tubes, to confirm that there aren't any roadblocks in the way. It basically gives your care team the absolute confidence of knowing that the biological pathways are wide open and functioning exactly as they should be.
Alternatively, your doctor might recommend an HSG, or hysterosalpingogram.
Now, unlike the ultrasound tests we just talked about, an HSG is actually a specific type of X-ray. According to our clinical sources, this X-ray is done to visualize the uterus internally, and crucially to outline any fallopian tube blockages. By taking an X-ray, doctors get this very clear, stark contrast image that maps out the exact shape of your uterus and clearly highlights if those fallopian tubes are open and totally clear of any blockages.
I know exactly what you might be thinking right now. SHG, HSG, it sounds like an absolute alphabet soup of medical jargon, right? So let's clear that up by comparing them side by side. The SHG is your special, non-invasive ultrasound. Its main job is giving a detailed assessment of the uterine cavity itself. The HSG, on the other hand, is an X-ray test, and while it also visualizes the uterus, its real superpower is outlining those fallopian tube blockages. Understanding this difference is huge. It helps you walk into your clinic feeling smart, feeling prepared, and just way less anxious, because you know exactly what tool is being used and exactly why.
So once we've checked the hormones, looked at the uterus, and made sure the tubes are clear, what do all these answers actually mean for your future?
Well, for some folks, the answers found during this diagnostic phase lead straight into immediate fertility treatments. But for others, it opens the door to something called fertility preservation. As our clinical text defines it, this is the process by which reproductive tissues, like eggs, can be saved or protected. Let's say your tests reveal that your ovarian reserve is changing, or maybe you just aren't ready to start building your family right this very second, but you still want to protect your options. Fertility preservation is an incredibly empowering path. It literally allows you to hit pause, safeguarding your reproductive tissues until you're truly ready.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the entire point of everything we've been talking about today. Testing is not a hurdle, it's a gateway. Diagnosing the exact cause is a profoundly empowering step forward. By gathering these specific puzzle pieces, whether it's through a simple blood test for hormones, a gentle ultrasound for your uterus, or an X-ray for your fallopian tubes, you are taking the most proactive step possible toward building your family. You're moving out of the scary unknown and confidently into the known.
To wrap up our explainer today, I really want to bring us right back to where we started. Once the exact cause of infertility in a female is diagnosed, the chances of a successful pregnancy increases dramatically. Every single test, every ultrasound, every blood draw, it is all a step toward that dramatic increase in success. Knowledge truly is power when it comes to fertility care. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to consider. Now that you know these tests are just stepping stones on your journey, what empowering step will you take today to find your own answers? Thank you so much for walking through this with me.